Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Arsenal Fan Theory podcast. Obviously, another great performance from the Gunners into the FA Cup final. Dean, oh, sorry, I haven't greeted you guys yet. How are you doing? Sorry, I've got Dean with me
How's it, guys? Good to be back.
and Mike.
What's up, Brad?
Sorry, so just to be fully transparent, this is our second attempt for the day. We had a bit of technical difficulties on our first recording, so let's hope this one, the PC holds up. All right, Dean, let's jump straight into it. As we spoke a bit earlier, there were a lot of comparisons between the Liverpool performance and the City performance. And one of the things that really stood out for me is our defensive solidarity, obviously. But, we were much more controlled in this game. I think we had a lot more chances. We weren't on the box as much. We just felt more in control. What were your thoughts on the two games?
Yes, Brendon. Firstly, I fully agree. There's a lot of similarities, between the two games and how we set out. We'll jump into that right now. But yeah, there was, for me, a bit more of a calm and as well as a more, we were a lot more solid, compared to the Liverpool game. I just think we're busy building towards that. There's almost two types of styles that we want to play. And as we progress, we're getting better at each style. And yeah, this way, for example, the similarities that we see between the two games is that we were allowing them to have all the possession in the world,
Mm.
but in the right areas, in the areas that we knew we could control the game. And that was by pushing them out to the wings. If you look at Liverpool and City especially, they're not the tallest of teams. You're not gonna, I don't see many Oaks, especially in the front line. Yeah, we can go to the defense of their teams and find tall enough guys. But anyone in the midfield and going forward is not going to be David Luiz or listen to me, or Mustafi in the
Stop,
air.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
so that's what we allowed them to do. We allowed them to have the ball in their own half and pass it around and waste time. And also, we allowed them to, well, we forced them to move the ball out to the wings. And eventually, out of frustration, they started going for crosses, which was never going to work. As I just explained, you're not going to beat the likes of, well, firstly, there's three defenders, and, because we're playing with the back three, there's a lot more Oaks in the box protecting. And then, yeah, the height. So I think it was brilliant, a tactical masterclass from Arteta, to,
Mm.
spot that. When we look at City and we look at Liverpool, we actually see this wing play of theirs as their strength. But Arteta did it in such a way that it actually became their weakness, which I thought was brilliant.
Mm. No, look, I completely agree with you. And one thing I also noticed is, City loved also going down the wings, like you said, and cutting the ball back, to either Sterling or, in this case, Gabriel Jesus. And I think two players that stood out that their positioning was quite key was Xhaka and Ceballos in the midfield, tracking back, cutting off those lines where the
Mm.
players who normally, cut the ball back to.
No, I fully
And
agree.
so that was brilliant from Arteta, obviously having some insight into how City set up. Mike, I also want to talk to you regarding the comparison between City and Liverpool. I remember last time we did the recording, the post-match, the review. We were both a bit down. Yes, we did just win against Liverpool, but we felt that the performance wasn't always, transparent of the scoreline. This time out, I feel that, you know, we did deserve a 2-0 win. We probably could have got a 3-0 win. We were playing that well on the counter attack.
No, I completely agree with you, Bren. Against Liverpool for most of the game, it just felt like all we were trying to do was just keep the ball out of the net, get all of the players behind the ball and have everyone defending. Where against City, like you said, it was a much more controlled performance. I feel we were the better team on the night, and we did deserve to win, like you just said. Defensive, we were very solid. Like you guys also mentioned about Ceballos and Xhaka, they had a very big part to play in our defense. And all of our defenders, Luiz, Mustafi, and Tierney, I feel they played well. But but we were a lot more clinical with our finishing also, and we did look to counter attack. Against Liverpool, I didn't see that as much. It really just looked like the plan was to defend. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you mind if I jump in there, guys?
No, go ahead.
Look, I fully agree with you. Most of that Liverpool game, we were in a sense trying to keep the ball out of the net. But how many shots on target did they have? Yes, at the end of the day, they could have been this, they could have gone for them. That didn't count as a shot. You know what I mean? In a sense, an interception or a tackle or such. But that still comes down, to confidence. The more we play. So, yes, the Liverpool game, we maybe did not deserve to win it as much. But it's not as though Liverpool had clear-cut opportunities, how we can start seeing the fruits of Mikel Arteta's work, starting to pay off in the City game and seeing what he actually wanted to do in the first City game and, of course, in the Liverpool game that he's now starting to get right or starting to, gain that confidence in a sense of the players agreeing with what or the way to handle a match tactically.
Yeah, Dean, I definitely agree with you. I also want to bring you in a bit, regarding the tactical news this Arteta is showing. Yes, I hear what you're saying regarding the Liverpool game, that we weren't maybe as used to it was settling in. But let's also just give Arteta some credit, because I feel like we came in with an idea of a clear way of football he was trying to play, and you realized, he doesn't have the players to compete with the big sides. He doesn't have the players to put in his system. So tactically, and he changed his squad, or not his squad, his team, to suit their strengths, and it's been paying off the last few weeks. Yes, we had a few blips, but I mean that's going to happen when you bet in a new system in any team.
No, I fully agree with you, Brendon. That's exactly it. We thought, Arsenal's this one style of football possession, this and that, and that was, in a sense, Wenger's shortcoming, and in a sense, Unai Emery's problem, that he tinkered too much or he thought too much about the opposition than himself. You know what I mean? Where I feel Arteta is that perfect blend. He thinks a lot about the opposition, but he thinks about our strengths and how can we play towards our strengths to combat the team. Rather than, okay, let's try set up this way because this way is the way that's going to combat their strengths. Meanwhile, we don't have the quality to do those tasks to combat their strengths. But there might be another way that Arteta, as you see, the more he plays, he's busy figuring out his players. He's got a lot of, to me, he's got a lot of options. You look at a Leicester side or one of these other Oaks vying for the, top four at the moment. They don't have, in my opinion, as much versatility. We look at Maitland-Niles and all of these players. So I think this all plays into Arteta's, hands. And yeah, he's extremely, how could we say, versatile? Yeah, in every situation, even in a match, when he sees things are working this way, or an opposition has done this or that, he's very, very tactically aware. I think we are very lucky to actually get this manager at the end of the day. If you look, if I was watching the Leicester game earlier today, where Brendan Rodgers 3-0 down and doesn't change anything to his game, where I don't see Arteta being that kind of manager. And I know we were going after Brendan Rodgers. That's why I'm bringing this comparison in. So I think at the end of the day, we were lucky we got Arteta instead of a guy like Brendan Rodgers. And that's nothing to say against Brendan Rodgers, but it's just what I'm trying to say. At how, the game's forever changing, and Arteta's now adapted himself to the new, the new coach, the Pep Guardiolas and these types of coaches. And maybe he's even the next generation, the new, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I want to go on to, sorry, Dean, I agree with you, and I think that's a big discussion we can probably have after the season's done while we're looking for some content. But I think we should move on to, Michael, key performances you maybe saw, in the City game. Was there anything that stood out for you? Anything you want to highlight?
Well, if you want to talk about key performances, maybe like individual performances, David Luiz, I feel he had an exceptional game. It was one of his best defensive games in an Arsenal shirt, in my opinion. Xhaka was brilliant again. He was there to clean up the mess a lot of times. When we were to get in trouble, when we were to make a mistake, it just seemed like Xhaka was there. And he's, like you guys also mentioned, his positioning was great. It always felt like he was at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Again, we were talking about Kieran Tierney. He's been great. He's been a great signing for us. We always applaud him on left wing back, because he plays so well there. But he's just as good as a left-sided on the left-sided centre back role for me. He's very, very strong defensively. So
Well,
yeah, it's probably.
Sorry, let me cut in there. As you're talking so much about the key individual displays on the night, I think it's a good transition into our player ratings. I think like we did a bit earlier, we spent a bit more time on each player than we usually did on the player ratings, and I think we had a few good discussions. Hopefully, we can do the same. Dean, jump in or get this started with Martinez again.
Yeah, Martinez. I'm gonna go with 9 out of 10. I think earlier I did go a bit lower, but just just thinking over again, the key saves, the way he marshaled the defense, everything like that. Bar, of course, David Luiz and Aubameyang, and even Xhaka.
Yeah.
He was probably behind those guys the best player. So yeah, for me, 9 out of 10. Key saves.
Yeah.
Kept us in the game there with whose save was it towards the end there?
Mahrez.
Well, no,
Oh, there was a
Mahrez,
couple. Yeah, there was
well,
that
I think the
Mahrez one
Mahrez
where
save was the big one. Yeah,
the one
for
where
me.
he stopped it on the floor and still actually kept it. That's brilliant.
Yes,
So yeah, instead of palming it away, how he kept control of that ball. It just shows you, like we said earlier, I don't think we can even we can even keep talking about him as our second choice goalkeeper. I know that's saying a lot. Bernard Leno is world class, but looking at these performances, I definitely think he's going to give Bernard Leno a push for a starting berth. When he returns from injury.
No, I agree. I think Bern needs to earn his place back into the team, definitely.
Yeah, you can't just get. It's exactly, you can't just. He doesn't have that place, the starting berth on a silver platter anymore. It's now he has to earn it back, and it's going to have to either come through a bad performance from Martinez or an injury. Because Martinez is going to stay there as long as he's performing well, or bad performance. Then there we go. That gives Leno a chance, or a cup competition. So in a sense, I do feel that Leno will have to work for his position exactly like that when he comes back.
I think the nice thing that we're starting to see with Arteta and with the squad is that there are a bit more options, like you mentioned earlier, and people need to fight for their spots. Mike, especially looking at Mustafi, please give his rating, and I think he did. He's Holding is hard on his heels. Holding could have started this game easily.
Yeah, well, like I've said in a few previous episodes, Mustafi has probably been our best defender for me under Mikel Arteta. In this game, I think it was probably the worst of the back three, but still, I don't feel he had a bad game. I feel he played quite well. He had one early mistake, where we lost the ball to Sterling in our own box, but Ceballos and Xhaka helped him out on that occasion. And other than that, like you said when we were talking earlier today, when he used to make mistakes, he would just drop his head and fall out of the game. Where now he picks up his head and he starts to play better after mistake. So yeah, I'll probably give him a 7 out of 10.
All right, I'm going to jump over to Luiz. I agree with you. I think other than the one early mistake, Mustafi was very reliable, combative. But Luiz, I can't give him anything else than a 10 out of 10. I think he had a top performance. He was always there when we required him. His aerial duels, okay, yeah, he wasn't up against the biggest presence, but he won all of his aerial duels and he cut out a few important passes. So, and he almost got an assist where Oba probably should have scored. So 10 out of 10. Dean, we're going on to Tierney.
Yeah, Kieran Tony. Shucks, it's difficult because I'm comparing our ratings to performances, and going off of Martinez, who I do think he did play better, but not too much better than Tony. Tony had an amazing game, so yeah, I'm gonna give him an 8.5 for Kieran Tony. Defensively, solid. Nothing got past him. I actually stopped counting how many times he saved us in a sense with a last ditch tackle or positioning. So yeah, 8.5.
And he got
Brilliant.
an
And
assist.
as we
Yeah, sorry, Dean.
say again.
And he also got the assist for our
Sorry,
second
that's
goal.
why
Yeah.
as well. Yes, that's why his rating is so high as well. He got the assist.
Mm.
So yeah, actually, I'd put him on par with Martinez, putting the assist into mind as well now. So yeah, 9 out of 10. And as we said earlier, we discussed this earlier that for us, he has probably been the best player in general under Arteta since the restart from lockdown.
Yeah, so I think, like we discussed, he's a real steal, and I
Yeah.
think we can say it on every podcast because I think his value is just going to continue on growing for us. All right, so Mike, then we go to the right wing back, Bellerin. Also had a solid game. What would you rate him?
Well, yeah, Bellerin had a solid game. Like I said also earlier today, when under Emery or pre Arteta, it always looked when he was joining the attack, he was looking more to do the overlapping runs. Go on the outside of Pepe, and for the last few games, he's been going on the inside to give Pepe more space on the wing, probably to cut back inside or just to look for those good crosses that he does. Like he got the assist for Alba. It was another good ball. But yeah, going back to Bellerin, yeah, I think he had a good game, but I feel Maitland-Niles on the other wing back was probably better on the night. So Bellerin, I'll probably also give a 7 out of 10.
Well, I don't feel Maitland-Niles was that much better. I think Bellerin had that one sloppy moment where he passed it straight into Gabriel. That was a big chance for City that they didn't capitalize on. But that being said, Maitland-Niles definitely, he got a task at the night. Arteta told him to make sure that he tracks back and make sure that Morris doesn't get any space, and he stuck to the task well. I don't think we can give Maitland-Niles much less than 8 out of 10, and it's a bit concerning now that he wants to leave because I really feel the versatility he brings to the squad might save us millions and millions of pounds in transfers going forward.
I agree with you, Brendon. He could probably play goalkeeper and not look out of position.
Yeah,
Um,
he's
and
proven so many positions.
and as you said, he was given a task by Arteta to marshal Riyad Mahrez, and as we spoke about that shot earlier, the Martinez save from the Mahrez. Other than that, he had Mahrez in his pocket for most of the game.
Hmm. Yeah, well, let's go on to Ceballos, Dean. While we're on you, I think
Yeah,
you
so
were a bit critical about him. So,
look, defensively and positioning wise, there's nothing really to criticize Ceballos for. But in the first half and in the second half, in the beginning, there was, I think you're actually talking about it, the Bellerin mistake where he and Shaka made up for it or something like that. Just before that, like 2 minutes before that, he played a wayward pass and they almost ended up scoring. And same in the second half. So his attacking side is what I'm criticizing, and I think that's what he's not there to be a defensive midfielder, an oak to work. Look, his work rate is an amazing part of his game, and that's what you want in a modern day attacking midfielder. You don't want a modern day attacking midfielder to walk around like a Ozil and expect everything to fall at his feet. You know what I mean? So we
yeah.
want that in an attacking midfielder. You want that defensive and that work rate from an attacking midfielder, but on the attacking midfielder's side, where we probably want to start pushing him in. Look, maybe Arteta sees him as a more creative midfielder in a sense of a Kevin De Bruyne, but still, Kevin De Bruyne, defensively does more than what Ceballos does, and then attacking a million times more. You know what I mean? On attacking point of view, he's got to pick up his game, and he's got to. We go back and we can look at good passes. I'm just saying, in a big game like this, we wanted to see him shine in an attacking sense, and I did not see that. So, yeah, defensively very solid. Like I said, just a couple of mistakes on the attacking point of view. So, yeah, I'd give him a 7 out of 10. I don't see it being any more impressive than a Bellerin or a Mustafi performance.
Yeah, well, I can agree with you. I think we do need to see a bit more attackingly from him, but the last few games, I think he's starting to turn a corner. Yes, he was a bit more defensive today, but he has been starting to show his passing range, definitely in that midfield.
Yeah, besides this game, yes.
Besides this game, yeah. And Mike Xhaka, another probably candidate for man of the match.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Brendon. He was definitely a candidate for man of the match, in my opinion. Like I was saying earlier, he always seemed to be at the right place at the right time. He always seemed to be there to clean up the mess whenever we got ourselves into some trouble, when City were looking promising on the attack, So, yeah, Xhaka with the whole Palace incidents early in the season, it didn't look like he should wear the armband. Definitely not, and also not even wear the shirt anymore. I would have been happy to see him leave, but that feels like a real long time ago to me. I'd be happy to see him wear the armband again these days, because he's been putting good performances in, week out, and it's true what Arteta says. He doesn't hide. He'll take accountability on and off the pitch. And now with lockdown, there's not so many stadium noise, so you can actually hear him as one of the most vocal players on the pitch as well. So yeah, but I'll give him a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, well, I think I agree completely with you, and like Dean mentioned earlier, just want to sum it up. It's going to be difficult to strip the armband from Oba, but he might be first in line, or definitely one of the front runners if Oba is to leave this summer. And it just shows you how short-term football is. We could want him out of the club 1 minute and want him back as a captain the next minute. It's just how football goes, and if you prove yourself. And I just want to touch on Luiz as well. I think we've all called for his head on this podcast, wanting him out of the club. But one thing that he's shown is that his leadership characteristics might be worthwhile to have him in the team for another year. I think he brings a lot to the table on that regard. Okay, back to the player ratings. Nicolas Pepe, right wing. I think it's difficult. Probably a 7.5 out of 10. I don't think it's as bad as performance as I've seen people give. There were a few people on Twitter saying that he was non-existent. I think he tracked back well. A great assist from him, and he was part of the second goal as well. Great holder play, and he was, held the ball up whenever he needed to. He got involved. He did what he needed to on the day. Basically, what I'm trying to get at. The 7.5 out of 10.
It's weird that people are saying he did nothing. At the end of the day, it's difficult to latch on to every hoisted ball that was coming at him in the beginning of the game and stuff. And I think, even throughout the game, because we're conceding a lot of possession towards City, we're not going to have this build-up play. Look, we started building up play a lot better after the first goal went in, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's very weird for people to criticize Nicolas Pepe. That's, like you say, an assist and, a pass to an assist. So, if we were speaking ice hockey, you would have an assist, because ice hockey, they give 2 assists. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, very weird. Yeah.
Oh, people
that
got
boggles
their
my
opinions.
mind. Yeah, but no, people have got their opinions, and same thing. Yeah, that's my opinion. That Nicolas Pepe, like I said, you're busy running onto loose balls and tracking up and down all game, and then you're still expected to bolt 80 yards and get onto a ball and go and score. You know what I mean? So, yeah,
Well, you can continue that sentence and go into your man of the matches, the player ratings.
Yeah, so no, it just boggles my mind that people are criticizing him. We were discussing it earlier that he's He's been involved in 19 goals this season. Yeah, his
Yeah.
form in the beginning of the season was horrible, no doubt.
Mm.
But, we're talking about horrible form in the beginning of the season and him finishing on 19 contributions. He's probably going to finish over 20 contributions by the end of the season.
No,
That's an
most likely,
amazing
yes.
tally.
First season, yeah, it's great.
First season, that's amazing. You know what I mean? I understand it's a massive price tag. But yeah, moving on to Aubameyang, my play of the match, it was very difficult. We were discussing it earlier between David Luiz and, Aubameyang. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, goals is what wins you matches. Yes, our defense won us this match as well. Let's not lie. And yeah, it's just at the end of the day, it was clinical finishing. He could have had a hat trick. He probably should have had a hat trick, 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper there before his first goal. But yeah, at the end of the day, he was a lot more involved. He even came out and tweeted because, again, haters and, all of these are busy criticizing how he never scores in big games. And now here he comes and scores 2 massive goals for Arsenal to take us to the final. So yeah, 10 out of 10. For me, the player of the match performance. Yeah, Captain Fantastic.
Yeah,
Let's
well, I
hope,
think it's
let's hope now, because even Arteta was saying after the game, that games like this and beating teams like City and Liverpool do help a player want to stay. So if we can
well,
keep hold of him,
I think it gives them a clear indication and a good feeling that the club's in the right direction. I think
yeah,
if Arteta just promises him, yeah, we're going somewhere, don't worry, and the performances don't match, it's much more difficult to convince him about the project. So 2 big wins like that definitely does help. Mike, then Lacazette.
Well, Lacazette, he looks like he's back on form. He's been playing really well for me. He didn't get a goal this game, but I think he could have had one. There was one occasion where, Zaka dispossessed one of the City players right outside of their box, and the ball fell to Aubameyang. And Alba had Pepe or Lacazette to choose from, but his ball was just a bit soft to get to either of them. But yeah, his link-up play was great. His hold-up play is brilliant. Not just against City. I feel ever since he signed for us, a lot of times he's it's just long balls wasted to him. And he's out there alone probably for 20, 30 meters, and he seems to hold up the ball against 4 or 5 defenders, with ease. And then obviously the rest of the team joins in and we try get a quick counter attack. So he does that really well in my eyes. I'll probably also give him a bit higher than I did earlier today, so I'll give him an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, he was also involved in the build up to that first. Very, very involved.
Yeah, I think his hold-up play was excellent today. There were quite a few occasions, like you mentioned, Michael. He was the only person, up there. He held the ball up, held off 2 defenders sometimes, and released the play into miles of space. So absolutely, I think overall our team performance, like we've in our player ratings, you can see all of them really contributed to this game. And even I think the substitutes, Joe Willock had the longest time on. He probably gets 6 out of 10 along with all of the other substitutes. Not because they did anything badly. I just think they came on, they stuck to their tasks. They didn't give, emphasis to Man City, and but they didn't really affect the game that much. So 6 out of 10 is probably a fair rating for all of them. I'd also then want to look at our manager. Dean, what would you give Arteta for this game?
Yeah, Brendon, as we said earlier, this is a manager that can adapt his game to anything. And I thought he adapted very well to a team that he knows in and out. The Soak was there for 3.5 years. He trained with he woke up, everything with his Oak. So, he couldn't get it right in the first game because, yeah, that just proves how difficult it is to get right what he's gotten right from a 3-0 defeat to a 2-0 victory. We could see signs in the first game, but it just didn't work out. You know what I mean? A couple of mistakes from us, which even Arteta said there's always a mistake in us. In this game, there was no mistakes in us. But, going back onto Arteta, my rating for him, 10 out of 10. I think it was amazing to get one up on his, his teacher, his mentor. Must be an amazing feeling, and also is going to breed confidence. Now he believes also in himself that he knows what he's doing is, it's all as you said, back to the Aubameyang thing. The results just show, and it breeds confidence, because then they know they're doing the right thing and things are going in this right process. And it's the same for Arteta. And as he gains more and more confidence in himself, I think that's gonna benefit us even more than what we're seeing now. And yeah, I just think the way he picked on their strengths and our strengths and played our strengths and played them away from their strengths and forced them into their weaknesses or into areas that they're not, like we talked about, the wingers crossing in and all of this stuff. I think it's definitely his best performance as a manager so far under Arsenal.
Yeah, and I think, like we mentioned, the City game, the first City game was a bit difficult to call because there were so many mistakes. We might have pulled it off the same way if we didn't give away a City goal and concede the red card. So for me as well, 10 out of 10 performance from Arteta. Mike?
Yeah, well, I agree with you, both of you. I gave him a 10 out of 10 last week against Liverpool, and I'm going to continue the trend. I think he's an absolutely brilliant manager. Even when we just sacked Wenger and we obviously got Emery, we were already linked to Arteta then. By that time, I did feel it was too early for him to come to the club. But when Emery went, I wanted him. I didn't. We were linked with, like Dean said, Rodgers, and we were linked to Mourinho and all those types of managers.
Thank goodness.
Oh, thank goodness Tottenham went for Mourinho.
Yeah, and I actually wanted him. He was my first choice as manager, because the whole City team, they're outstanding players. Pep Guardiola, they've praised him a lot, and it doesn't happen for no reason, and with that type of squad and that manager who's been rated as one of the best managers in the world, obviously, to say that he's such a big part of their success, it's not a coincidence. So yeah, I'm really happy with him being our manager.
I agree with you, Mikey. That City and Pep actually wanted Arteta to stay and basically.
Yeah, they wanted him to actually continue and probably be the predecessor to. So I think we just
Sorry
lost
about
Dean.
that. Sorry
Got a phone call. I think, Dean, what you were saying is
yeah, exactly that.
That they wanted him to take over from Guardiola in a few years. They were getting him ready for the role. It was the stories coming out.
You know what I mean? And for that, for Pep and for the club to say that this is our future and put everything behind. But, you can understand on his side that, he felt he was ready. And clearly he's ready, you know what I mean? And yeah, that's why I don't hold too much animosity to City, because we got Arteta out there at the end of the day.
Yeah. I agree. All right, guys. I think we had we've got a pretty good briefing of the game. We went through the players quite extensively and the performances. So I think we can wrap it up on the City game specifically. Obviously, it was a great performance from us. Let's keep up the good work.